Hi everyone, and welcome to Being Well's Technology Workshops. If you're a student, you might have done our emotional health workshops already, but if you're a teacher or a parent, then this material is fine on its own as well. So my name is Jack, and I'm a trustee of the charity, and been here since it was founded in 2020. And I'm also joined with Ollie, who is also a trustee of the charity.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. So my name's Ollie, and I am 24. I helped set up the charity with Jack, and I am also a trustee.
So some of the topics we speak about today might make you feel a bit sort of uneasy or maybe even upset. It's just a warning for what's coming up.
So we're going to be looking at a few things today. First off, we're going to be looking at describing how your created self may or may not represent your real self online. Secondly, looking at analysing the benefits and drawbacks of representing different parts of your real self online. We're also going to be looking at something called the online disinhibition effect. We're going to look at how this can both be positive and negative. And finally, explain how anonymity, lag time, and lack of non-verbal cues all contribute to the online disinhibition effect.
In part one today, we're going to be covering a topic called curated lives, which is essentially what Ollie just talked about on the previous slide. So how your curated self online, so your sort of online presence, does that actually represent how you behave in real life?
Okay, so one of the essential questions we're asking today, and really the overarching question of part one, Curated Lives, is how can I create a social media presence that represents the real me? So have a little think about this as we go through some of the content, and by the end of it, hopefully you'll be able to answer this a bit better for yourselves.
Okay, so it's a little warm-up sort of exercise here. Take a moment to think about this question, and if you've got any thoughts, feel free to write them down, but alternatively just listen if you'd rather. So is the you that people see online the real you? Why or why not? So I think this is all about, are you showcasing a life online that doesn't represent you in real life? And do you think this is a positive thing or a negative thing? I think we're going on to the main issues surrounding this in a few slides, but misrepresenting yourself online is often a result of not being particularly happy. In my experience anyway, I have a lot of the time in my past sort of just posted the best bits of my life, but you never really see the in-between. So that's just my experience, and obviously that's not actually representing my whole life online.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Jack. So while we were talking about this, I actually brought up your social media, and I was having a little flick through, and yeah, you're right, you only post the most important bits, which, you know, someone will see that and just see a sort of canvas of your life as being all the most important bits in your life, but they don't see all the little bits in between, which might not be quite so exciting, right? They see you jetting off to wherever it was you went recently and going all over the place. And then, but for me, having a look at my social media and sort of like my Instagram, I kind of post everything, but in a way, because I feel the need to keep up with everyone's sort of everyone else's social presence, right? And I end up sort of overthinking everything I post and making sure that even if what I'm posting about isn't sort of perfect, I'll put like a funny caption on it that I'll spend loads of time thinking about, or I'll pick the best photos and sort of Photoshop them a bit. So it's still, although it's representing more of my life, it's a very glossy version of it. And I think it's like a self-fulfilling cycle. Like whatever I post, you know, other people will see the same thing, and they'll then think that their lives have to be perfect, and you kind of have to uphold this image all the time. Yeah,
I mean, it's really common on social media, and it's just misrepresenting yourself just kind of starts that cycle, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure it's, you know, everyone probably knows this, but it's quite interesting to kind of look back at yourself and see how much you do that.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And how much your friends do that as well, because you know your friends inside out. So it's interesting to see how they present themselves online.
Yeah. So what we actually mean by curate, the literal definition of curating something is selecting, organizing, and looking after sort of a collection of photos, writings, other items like that. So when you have a curated life online, that's essentially the bits of your life that you have picked and chosen to put on your social media.
Okay, cool. So we're going to review a video in just a moment, which is all about curated lives. As we watch it, if you want to, feel free to kind of jot your thoughts down, make some notes on handouts, and we're gonna have a big discussion afterwards, and just see if any of them line up with kind of our thoughts as we watch it. And yeah.
I think that social media does make people more fake.
Who's happier? Who's richer? Who appears to be the best?
I would say that it's okay to post a version of themselves that's not 100% real.
Yeah, I post things that I want other people to see.
I do think that social media has an effect on how people act in real life.
It carries a lot of weight.
I do not believe in filters, photoshopping, face tuning, none of that.
Yes, I think some people tend to obsess over their social media.
It kind of loses the meaning of what the intention of social media was, to like connect with other people.
I spend a lot of time being really careful about what I post on my main account, mostly because there's people that I don't know that well who are gonna see it. My spam account, however, is just a bunch of really terrible pictures of me.
It's okay to play a little game of pretend to, show off, impress your friends.
I'm always thinking in my mind, like, for validation from other people. But at the same time, I know that none of that is really worth it in the end.
As I've grown as an individual, I don't see the likes as comments as anything important. I feel like they don't help verify me as an individual.
I started counting my likes on my post, and I realized soon enough that that was giving me anxiety. So I stopped doing that.
But now I've learned to just post them just for my memories.
When I look back on like my social media page and kind of relive these memories.
I'm also wondering if people will enjoy the content just as much as I do. When it comes to likes, I never really think about that stuff.
I don't think I feel pressured to post certain things. I feel the opposite. I feel pressured not to post certain things.
Sometimes I can be pressured to post certain things, but I try not to, because I like to be my own person. I don't like for people to tell me what to do.
I only post things that portray me as the young African-American scholar that I am. Even if that's not true all the time, that's the only thing I'm gonna post about.
They have one image of themselves, and it's not an entire picture of who they are as a person.
How I look and how I'm portrayed in society, I'm already expected to act a certain way, so when I put myself out on social media, I really have to watch how I carry myself.
With social media, with the internet, you're able to pick and choose what people see. And it has its pros and cons.
I'm an athlete and I'm going to attend college. With that in mind, I have to pay attention to scouts, I have to pay attention to other colleges and teachers and other opportunities that might be coming my way.
I would say that curating your social media can be positive.
People can see the very best life that you're living, and people can see you being happy all the time.
It kind of gives you the power to be who you want to be and only let people see what you want them to see. It can turn negative really fast.
If you are constantly displaying yourself as always happy, it can create a lot of anxiety and depression, just a lot of stress.
When I post something, I'm checking it very frequently to see how it's doing compared to my other pictures. If it's not getting as many likes as my other pictures, I might delete it.
We only see the greatest moments or the happiest moments of people, and we don't know what happens beyond those moments or what they've done to get to those moments.
I think if someone's posting fake Photoshop photos or something that's not actually them, I don't think that's okay.
Models online, sometimes they tend to promote unhealthy beauty expectations for teenagers like us, because teenagers were just trying to fit in, and sometimes these beauty expectations, they do get to us.
There are definitely photos where I've put filters on it or edited in some way where I look skinnier or prettier or have less freckles or whatever it is.
My friends are obsessed. Oh, how do I look with that picture? Oh, my body looks weird in that picture. I shouldn't post it. I'm like, why does it matter?
There's these people who always look so perfect, and they always have the cutest lattes, and they're always traveling with the hot boyfriend, and that's all they ever post. You expect that to be your real life.
You have all these opportunities to tell people about who you are, And people tend to edit that because they want to be liked. I tend to edit that because I want to be liked.
I also definitely think it's possible to overthink it. If you just feel comfortable with yourself, I think it's okay to post what you want to post.
Not only does it affect how we are online, but it also affects how we hold ourselves and our self-importance in real life.
That person who you see living that perfect life is kind of curating what they do. So they're not showing you all of them, so don't try to live up to that very small part of their life.
So just an activity now. We just have kind of a discussion about everything we've gone over in this part 1 and also that video. So the questions we have here are, how do people's curated selves compare to their real selves? So you saw all the students in that video. Some of them prefer to represent a sort of a different person online. Like they like putting the highlights of their life online, and that's their opinion. Then others think the opposite. So what is your reaction to these resources and to this video in particular? So personally, I think the key takeaway from that video is that you have so many opportunities online to show people who you are and what you're capable of, like as an individual. But I think a lot of people quite often choose to edit that. And personally, I think there's sort of become an incessant need to present your perfect self on sort of social media stories and just posts in general, to the point where a lot of the time it kind of feels like an act. I think in general, it's quite hard to understand how this relates to well-being and mental health. But from my perspective, if you see other people's perfect selves depicted online constantly, that can often result in you comparing yourself and then viewing yourself negatively because of it. And that can often sort of lower your self-esteem and increase anxiety levels.
Yeah, so we're also thinking about sort of how maybe how we counteract this and how I've seen sort of other people counteract this as well. And a few of the things I was thinking of that I do now is, for example, on Instagram, if anyone uses Instagram, you get there's like a close friends option on your stories. And I've sort of found that has enabled me to post my real self to a select few friends. Yeah. And I found that actually over time that those close friends has actually increased in size. I keep adding people to my close friends lists for people to see sort of more of a real version of myself, yeah. Right? Which is actually giving me more confidence bit by bit to post the real version of me online without rethinking too much about what people are gonna say and whatnot, because I've posted my real self to this many people already and I haven't really had a negative response. So do you know what I mean? It just keeps going. The other one is obviously I don't. Can you do it on Facebook? Yeah, you can change.
You can, yeah.
So you can edit. You can change your account so that the number of likes doesn't show up on your social media page, which I guess is helpful. I mean, for me, I seek a lot of validation through likes, yeah. And if I just don't have the option to even see that, then I don't really care. And then I don't care as much about what I post either, which presents a more real version of myself online. And then finally, I find looking at stories is quite unhealthy, because if I followed 700 people on Instagram, and if I flick through those stories, at least one of them is going to be having a better day than I am, or having a good day, or doing something that looks enjoyable or particularly fun or whatever. And I feel like that can make you feel quite down about your own day, for example.
Yeah, no, I agree, because from my experience, the only time I'm ever sifting through Instagram stories is when I'm bored at home. So obviously, whatever I see on there is going to make me compare my life negatively compared to what I'm seeing, because they're all anything. Whenever you're on Instagram posting, you're out doing something fun. You're not posting like sat there on your sofa sort of thing. So whatever I see whilst I'm bored is going to be the opposite. So for me, like Ollie was talking about sort of posting his real self, like through close friends lists and stuff. And I don't really do that as much. For me, it's more about just reducing my exposure to the platforms in general. So on your phone, you can actually like delete the apps. They're still there if you search for them, but on the home screen and stuff, they don't show up. So for me, because I'll only click on them if I'm bored, so it just kind of stops me naturally doing that, and then I kind of just forget about them. So they're there if I need, but I'm not exposed to it as much. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so that's attractive.
Yeah. But I think what we wanted to just sort of sum up there through that discussion is that if you actually are comfortable with representing a sort of a perfect version of yourself online, that's what you actually want, then that's fine. But we just want you to maybe think about what you're posting online and whether you're comfortable with the end result, really.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So in the second part, we're going to look at something called the online disinhibition effect and how this can lead to online bullying.
So we'll run over exactly what online disinhibition means in a few slides' time. But I think the overarching question for this section of the workshop is how, like Ollie just said, how does online disinhibition sometimes lead to cyberbullying and just sort of online bullying in general?
Okay, so just exploring the term, what is cyberbullying? It's a term that is, well, it sounds quite outdated. We've heard it lots of times before, and we all know exactly what it means. It's online bullying or harassment, and it includes being hateful to an individual for a variety of reasons: appearance, race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation, for example.
So just looking at some of the sort of numbers surrounding the issue of online bullying, there's some pretty awful statistics out there. So over 60% of students who experience online bullying report that it immensely impacts their ability to learn and feel safe while at school, which isn't surprising at all. And students who experience bullying or online harassment are also nearly 2 times more likely to attempt suicide. So these are some pretty grim looking statistics. And I think it really outlines the sort of detrimental impact that online bullying can have on students. So we're going to watch a video on the next slide that goes over sort of an example issue of this, which again is pretty horrible, but it will lead us on to what the online disinhibition effect is and why people sort of get targeted online like this.
Okay, so after watching that quite harrowing video, I guess one question we might be asking ourselves is, why might people target someone online like this? And we mentioned this phrase before, but one reason why is something called the online disinhibition effect, which is essentially when people behave differently online to how they would in real life. And I'm sure you've seen plenty of examples of this online, and you may have even done it yourself without really even realizing it. I know certainly I've probably said some things online before that I probably wouldn't say to someone's face, and I'm sure Jack would probably agree with me on that as well.
So we're just going to watch a quick video now from Common Sense Education, and it basically just covers the online disinhibition effect and explains what it is really well. If you want to, feel free to write some notes down on your handout about the 3 main causes of the online disinhibition effect. Alternatively, just listen if that's what you'd rather do.
Do you ever catch yourself saying something online that you probably wouldn't say in real life? I'm looking at you, internet trolls. Got something bad to say to me? Come at me, bro. Come on. I'm just kidding. We don't get trolls on our videos. Y'all are all great. But you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, for example, my name is Miles with the Y, Bess, B-E-S-S. And I got into a little altercation with the guy because his name was Miles with an I, B-E-S-T. So, I was talking trash. I just kept tweeting him like, there can only be one. I'm better than you. Get off Twitter. Now, I was the aggressor in the whole situation. I probably wouldn't have done it if I had to see him face to face. But I was online and I felt protected by the internet. I think we've all seen how online conversations can quickly take a turn for the worse. Just look at any time a woman posts anything on social media. There's always somebody commenting about how she looks or how she's doing something wrong. Just ask my friend Julia from 2 Cents, a personal finance show on YouTube.
You're so right, Miles. I had the very unique experience of becoming pregnant, visibly so, and having the baby while I had a YouTube channel. And while I was talking about like important things about money and trying to teach, so many of the comments were focused on my ever-changing body.
It kind of feels like it's super easy to be mean to each other online. So today we're asking, is the internet making us mean? So it's a real thing. The internet really can make people act differently online than they do face-to-face. Researchers call this the online disinhibition effect. You know that little inner voice in the back of your head that tells you something might be a bad idea? Well, the internet can kind of shut that voice up. You might end up saying or doing something mean that you'll regret later, or sharing something that's a little TMI. But online, this disinhibition effect isn't always a bad thing. Plot twist. Sometimes, good things can come from the disinhibition effect. Like when someone might open up about something private online and get some much needed support. Let me break it down for you. Back in 2004, psychologist John Suler published a paper outlining this phenomenon. And this paper is kind of a big deal. It's been cited over 3,000 times. That means it's shown up in a bunch of other research. In the paper, there's 2 types of disinhibition. Toxic disinhibition, where you have a tendency to act meaner than you would in real life, making the internet a hostile place. But there's also benign disinhibition, where people can open up and share more than they normally would, which can create a positive online experience. So why do we act differently online? Well, if you think about it, there's a lot about chatting online that's pretty different than talking in person. And it's these differences that can lead us to do things online that we normally wouldn't do. In the paper, there's about 6 main things about online communication that lower disinhibition. But for this video, we'll focus on the big 3. 1, anonymity, 2, lag time, and 3, lack of nonverbal cues. Okay, first, let's discuss anonymity, which by the way is one of the hardest words to say in the English language. Never mind. A lot of time we're communicating online, we're anonymous, which means other users don't know who we really are. This is especially true on forums or anonymous apps. And this lack of accountability can make us feel free to do or say whatever. We're less worried about real life consequences because no one knows who we are. So you might just be saying stuff all willy-nilly. But on the other hand, you could open up about personal stuff that's bothering you. Next up is lag time. When we're communicating online and on social media, it doesn't always happen in real time. There's often a delay between when we post something and when we get a response. And this lag time can lead us to say more impulsive stuff. We can just post something and bounce and not really worry about the consequences. But on the flip side, this delay can also give us more time to pause and think about how we respond to something. Finally, let's talk about how there's a lack of nonverbal cues online. So even if you know who someone is online, you can't always read their body language, facial expressions, or tone, which gives you super valuable information on how they may be feeling. Without these cues to respond to, you might not self-censor as much. Like if you're talking to someone face to face and you can read that they're unhappy or bored or indifferent to what you're saying, you might choose to shut up. But online, you don't have those cues, so you'll probably just keep going. Side note, this is exactly why we need a sarcasm font. It's gotten me in trouble way too much. Okay, so all that can help explain why we act differently online, and like I said before, sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's bad. This kind of freedom can create really supportive environments online. It can be helpful if you're young and trying to figure out your identity. Like take for example someone who's thinking about coming out. They can find support in hearing about other people's journeys, and they can post and ask questions that they may otherwise not feel comfortable asking in person. And there's research to back this up. There's a positive association between online forums and well-being of people in marginalized groups. Online communities can also help people deal with problems they might be too shy or embarrassed to talk about in person. Like if you're grappling with a health problem or a relationship concern or a variety of other sensitive issues. And these types of meaningful connections can be a really good thing. Like really good. Really good. And benefits of online forums can extend into the real world. People can feel empowered to rally and organize behind causes. But the flip side of all this is that people are also inclined to act out, so it's not surprising that recent surveys have found that 40% of adults have experienced harassment online, and 66% have witnessed it. And 59% of teens have been harassed or cyberbullied. Not cool, people. Just be nice. Of course, it's not all the online disinhibition effect that makes us act a certain way online. Other things like your personality and your life experiences definitely influence how you act. Researchers have even found that there are certain online conditions that can provoke people into trolling. If you want to learn more about that, check out our video on internet trolls. You know I love a shameless plug. So for better or worse, the internet really can make you act differently than you would face to face. So as always, I'm your host, Miles Best. Now I share when I was mean to Miles Best, but now I want to know, have you ever acted differently online than you would in person? Tell us about it in the comments below. Feeling inspired to learn more about how technology affects you? Be sure to check out our video that asks, when is the right age to start using social media? I also want to give a shout out to Common Sense Education, who we collab with on this video. If you're a teacher, be sure to check out their digital citizenship curriculum in the description below. Thanks guys, you're awesome. Till next time, peace out.
So after watching that video, we've got quite a good idea now of the three main reasons behind the online disinhibition effect. So you've got anonymity, lag time, and a lack of non-verbal cues. So we're just going to have a quick discussion now. Might be worth sort of thinking about this yourself in your own time, taking this away with you. But the question here is, what are some ways that you may have behaved differently online than you would in person?
Yeah, and I think on top of that as well, it might be quite interesting to think about which of those three things causes you to act differently online as well. So for me, it's like the non-verbal cues, for example. I guess I can kind of compare it to, like driving. When you get like road rage when you're driving, you don't really see someone else's reaction, and also that almost you can distance yourself to someone's situation, to their reaction.
Yeah.
So like, if I get annoyed at someone in a car, I'm not going to see how they respond. So in a way, it doesn't really matter. And same online. Like if I said something, if I was ever horrible to you, Jack, and I wouldn't necessarily get an immediate response to that, and I wouldn't have to see it if I chose not to. So that's one. I guess that's one.
The sort of lack of non-verbal cues, isn't it? You don't see their reaction, and
right.
And again, with like when people are messaging you, it's very easy to misinterpret stuff as well, just because you don't have sort of like it says there, non-verbal cues.
Yeah.
So
I think that I've definitely acted differently online to how I would in person before. Usually talking about other people.
Yeah.
And you also don't think that it's going to get around to anyone else as well.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm the same. But like nowadays, I definitely think about those three things before I message or post. Like I try not to do anything online that I wouldn't say or do in person.
Exactly. And I think although one of the things you mentioned was lag time, I think lag time can also be, you can turn it into a positive.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You can really take your time to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest, when I want to lash out now at someone online, like a friend over Messenger, for example, I'll usually take the time that knowing that I don't have to reply instantly, I'll take the time to think about it a little bit more, and that actually can be quite helpful as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think from all of that, we now understand why someone might behave in a hateful way online, and it would be really good if you guys could just maybe think about, have you ever behaved differently online than you would in person? Maybe like sort of jot it down and just have a think about it. It could be anything, just behaving in a way you wouldn't do normally. And I mean, although the online disinhibition effect can sometimes lead to positive outcomes, like Ollie said, and like you saw in the video, the lag time and the anonymity can actually be useful. It helps you sort of open up about different things, maybe.
It can help you reach out to people as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there are positives to it, but a lot of the time, very often, it can cause people to make sort of hostile or harsh comments, and these comments can lead to online bullying. And to counter this effect, like we saw in the video, sort of just maybe pause before we like send a message or post. Just think about how the anonymity, the lag time, and the lack of non-verbal cues might be impacting our ideas and words. So thanks so much for listening to everything we had to say today. This kind of finishes off the first technology workshop, and we have another one as well that is online. And that's kind of using your online presence to sort of further your purpose, and also using your online presence in a positive way. And we've given lots of examples of how to do that. So if anything particularly affected you today, or in any of the emotional health workshops that you might have done in person at school, if you're a student, or if you're just struggling with any sort of mental health or wellbeing related issue, there's 3 really good organizations here that can help. Surrey and Borders Partnership. So they have a free mental health crisis helpline with the number there. Really useful. Samaritans, their number there, they're 24/7, and also Shout, who are also 24/7 there too. So if anything affected you, please get in touch with one of these. So thank you for coming along. And if you want to head over to our website, we have plenty of resources on there. So www.beingwellcharity.co.uk. You can find any resources that might help whatever you're struggling with. They're all separated out into different categories, so they're easy to go through. But worth checking out, and we'll enjoy seeing you at the next workshop.